Gaelic football on Off the Ball.
With AIB, proud sponsors of the GAA Senior Football Championship. Check out #TheToughest for more.
Alright, it is the penultimate weekend of the football season, and at this stage it looks like an unassailable lead in the quick picks for Shane Hannon. He has moved on to 23 points, Mick and Will on 18 apiece after last week, because Shane Hannon, you picked up a bonus point.
Love these bonus
Going
points.
against the grain on Sunday.
Went for the Cats.
Back in the Cats.
Just had a feeling, you know.
And getting the margin right as well.
Yeah, 1-3. Well, I figured both games would be very, very tight. I think we all went for... Oh, you went for 4-6 in Limerick, Galway. Myself and Mick went for 1-3. Probably a bigger margin than I expected. But yeah, just something about Kilkenny in a semi-final. Never back against them. And I was sorry to do it with Mick beside me because I know it hurt him, but I think
that's what hurt me.
The result itself maybe hurt slightly more.
Oh, I'm a point further behind in quick picks after this. It has given you an incredible lead.
It's not over yet. No, there's bonus points still.
I'm more interested in the fact that like Shane's got such a big weekend. Like, I mean, he's basically wrapped up the quick picks title. Like, so he's coming in here high as a kite, doesn't he? You know, he can pick anything. So all his focus is on the second leg of the trifecta, which is winning the crappy quiz. In a half an hour, right? So you go win the crappy quiz. The momentum that you're taking into Croke Park tomorrow, then.
Imagine I won the quiz. Imagine the momentum that I'd have to bring the positivity I'd bring to Croke Park. I could even play Monaghan's song at the end of it or something. I don't know. I'm feeling in a positive mood.
What is Monaghan's song?
Well, there is one, Monaghan All the Way by Declan Nerney. It was recorded quite recently. There's one called Farney Army. Yeah. Farney Army.
That's more of a terrorist song.
It is, but there's actually words in it. If you listen to the YouTube version, it's very good, by a band called Rula Bula. There's a few decent Monaghan tunes.
Rula Bula are an Offaly band as well. What are they doing writing songs for
You don't know, actually. Maybe there's a link to Monaghan there somewhere.
Potentially. Again, I'm just not sure what would happen if Sam Maguire was being brought around the pitch. You know, there's always that iconic song for each county that will go across the tannoy in Croke Park when the players are on the pitch.
It's probably a Big Tom song or something. What would be his most famous song?
Can we not just rob the Saw Doctors to win just once? Because people use that for Mayo, and they say it was written for Mayo, but they've won a few All-Irelands. We have never won it, so we want to win just once. And I'd be quite happy. I'd die a happy man if Monaghan won one All-Ireland in my lifetime.
Not sure if that's a spoiler for his pick for the first of the football semi-finals tomorrow, but we got the hurling wrong, Mick. We've got to put our hands up here.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
hard overhead, Mick.
I think I explained all my reasons actually, and I think if you listen back, which nobody ever will, I wouldn't actually.
Results business,
you know. Yeah, but it's a results business. But I think my reasoning was sound in why I thought that Clare would be thereabouts, and then it went the other way, which is fine. That's all part of the picks. We went 1-3, and it was 1-3 the other way. Shane got his bonus point. He's out in the lead now. That's fine.
He doesn't sound bitter at all.
No,
whatsoever.
To be honest, I was a little bit more bitter with the fact that when Galway got a few frees towards the end of the game, they were understandably going for goals, not thinking about my quick picks margins.
Of course.
You know, just be a hero. Put the ball over the bar. Take a 6-point deficit. Don't try and score goals. But what can you do? Limerick by 9. So that's the All-Ireland final coming up. Limerick against Kilkenny. So this week, lads, what's on the agenda? We've got both of the football semi-finals, and we're also doing the Tailteann Cup final between Down and Meath tomorrow.
So same 5 points up for grab as last week.
I think we have to.
By the way, did we count the Monaghan and
we all got it wrong?
Did we all pick Monaghan? Oh, okay, fine, yeah.
It's 6 points up for grabs.
Damn, that could have been an easy point for me if I just went for Derry. I should have known that Monaghan never win anything.
6 points up for grabs, isn't it?
6 points up for grabs. 3 fixtures.
We're not going for margins in the Tailteann Cup final.
Well, we should,
because that's a big
game.
But I feel like that's a special kind of like added thing for like the 6 biggest games of the year.
Seniors, it's not like the minor game last week. It's a senior game. Do you know? There's a trophy on that.
I'm all for the margins there. 2-3.
The only thing is, earlier in the year, like teams at the level of Meath and Down, all due respect, I'm more than happy to talk about the game and all. We're not picking the margins. We're not like watching the whole season to get to.
As someone with a 5-point lead, I'm
fine. Yeah, we'll leave the margins in. So
you should be dying for a margin here. Bonus points all over the place.
We'll do it for the finals. So the margins then 1-3, 4-6, 7+. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so do we want to start with the Tailteann Cup final then, maybe? Looks like it's going to be pretty much a full house based on the GA's email earlier today, and they reckon
it won't be for the Tailteann Cup final.
No, but they reckon by the end of tomorrow night's doubleheader it will have been full capacity. So Down against Meath, I think this is a very, very difficult one to call. I don't know if I'd read too much into the ease with which Down went through Laois in the semi-final, but both these teams have been consistent. I think the two best teams are in the final. They met back in the group stages. Mick, Give us your first onslaught as to who's going to win tomorrow.
First of all, I think I'm delighted with this game existing. I think the history of the All-Ireland final between them, I think the fact that they're two kind of sleeping giants in many ways who've won All-Ireland finals in my lifetime anyway, I presume everybody's lifetime here. You born 94? Yeah.
Born 93. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So within all our lifetimes, just about, Shane, these teams have won All-Ireland. So this is what Tailteann Cup should be. It should be that kind of like stepping stone towards getting back to where you're supposed to be. Meath were always the team, I remember when we talked about the second tier, as the example of a team that would thrive and get reborn by playing a year in the second tier. So it looks like good so far in that regards. I fancy Down a little bit, I have to say, and not just because of the Laois game, but I think the Cavan game, you know what I mean? I think that it seems to me that we've always thought that there was talent in Down. Like, I mean, the All-Ireland club champions a couple of years ago, and just sort of a team that just weren't in any way fulfilling the potential. Obviously shit hit the fan, and there's been a kind of a rebirth, you know, and maybe that needed to happen. Maybe that's exactly what needed to happen. And then what better way than winning a Tailteann Cup to kind of seal that rebirth, I suppose, you know. So I just feel that they've all the momentum coming into it, and in a 50-50 game, it's the only thing I can think of as a tiebreak.
Yeah, I remember them being so disappointing in Division 2 of the league a couple of seasons ago, but Down have obviously now arrested that fall. And the other big carrot at the end of this, aside from a piece of silverware, Shane, is whoever wins this is guaranteed a place in the All-Ireland Series next year, which could be a difficult thing to achieve through league position.
Yeah, it's not the tournament that either of these counties would traditionally want to be in. Like, they're such big footballing counties, both Down and Meath, so Tailteann Cup is probably a little bit of an ego hit for both of them. But once you get to the final and you realise that you climb the steps of the Hogan stand to lift the trophy in Croke Park for the winner tomorrow afternoon, it's a big deal. Like, Down lost this game by 2 points at Parnell Park in the group stages of the Tailteann Cup. I don't know how much I'm going to read into that. Down famously hit 17 wides in that match, but that was largely down to a really stubborn Meath defence. They were having to shoot from outside the scoring zone. Down have been going for goals. There's no secret of that. Like, what is it, 8-16 they put up against Laois? That Croke Park semi-final would have been the first time in Croke Park for a lot of that Down team. They're very young. A lot of them came through the 20s with Conor Laverty. The spine of the team is 23 or 24, albeit there's a couple of more experienced heads there as well. But I agree with Mick. I just think this Down team are slightly further along the road than Meath. Now, the Jordan Morris has been really, really good for me this year. Colin O'Rourke, I think, can say he's had a decent first year in charge, albeit that I've been disappointed with their league campaign. I do think Down are going to win this match. I think it's going to be a high scoring match, a reasonably tight match, and as I say, I just think Down are slightly further along. I'd probably say Down by 4-6.
Okay, what was your margin, Mick, by the way?
Sorry, it was 1-3. As I said, I don't have much between
them.
You're
going 4-6, Shane.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say about the All-Ireland carrot, the All-Ireland, like, being in the major championship, I think that's much more for Down. I can't see Meath. Don't forget, this year was very strange. We had weird draws in the provincial championships that meant that you were kind of guaranteeing that Sligo Sligo or Leitrim were going to get into the final. That was one place gone. There was it ended up being Clare took a place off Meath, and the same in Leinster. We already had Westmeath, so because the Division 3 team had won, so it meant that there was going to be much fewer places than there normally will be. I don't think Meath are going to be going into next year thinking relegation from Division 2, and chances are you'll have to get relegated to be in the Tailteann Cup next year. The
only problem Meath could have is they have to start early in Leinster again. They could get Dublin on their side of the draw, then you don't get to a provincial final.
Yeah, but I'm saying is if they're not in Division 3, what I mean is I don't think they're thinking to themselves we've no way in, whereas Down are in Division 3, which they'll have to get out of and possibly win. It probably will be win, and that's a tough thing to do. Like, that's a very, very tough division to get out of. So I think for Down, this is their ticket. And for me, I think they'll think we've 4 or 5 ways of getting in. You know what I mean? That we're almost guaranteed. So I'm not saying that that'll matter on the day, but I'm just saying if there is this kind of sense of back in the big time and that matters at all, I think it's far more for Down than it is for Meath. We
also spoke to Danny Hughes with this on the show this morning, and like, even though, and this sounds ridiculous, Down won by 22 points against Laois, scored 8-16. I still think Conor Laverty would have been pissed off at the end of that game, conceding 2-12 to Laois, and letting them back into the game in the kind of the last quarter or third quarter. that would have pissed him off. He's a perfectionist, so like it's not like they won by such a high margin that they had nothing to work on in the build up to the final. He'll have been so pissed off defensively that they concede a couple of goals, 12 points to a Laois team who, let's be honest, were piss poor. Like that's one of the worst inter-county performances I've ever seen.
Do you think that'll actually motivate them? Because like, I mean, that's the most normal thing in the world. If you score as much as they scored in the first half, nobody keeps that intensity.
I suppose you need to use something.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
maybe
you'd get the sense that he's the type of manager that would come in and throw shit against the wall, even though they won by.
I'd say they'd at least give him something to talk about, 100%. Because otherwise, say if Laois had only got to 5 or 6 points, your team talk becomes difficult on the analysis that Monday afterwards.
They won by 22. He'll be saying, why didn't we win that by 30? Like, we were 30 points better than Laois today. Do you know? And it's irrelevant in the end. You know, it's a clean slate heading into the Meath match. It's who I guess gets used to the Croke Park pitch easier. Like the Down team are very fast, very speedy, and very fit. Not saying Meath aren't fit as well, but I just think they suit the Croke Park pitch, albeit, as I said, not many of them will have played there except for maybe the few of the Kilcoo lads, I guess, at club level. But I just think Down have slightly too much. I know they missed out on even promotion to Division 2. Like, they won 5 games in their Division 3 campaign Down, but losing to Cavan and Fermanagh was the death of them for getting promoted. And I'd say they'll have used that as a little bit of siege mentality as well. They absolutely should have got promoted from Division 3. They were good enough on paper, just didn't get the results, I guess. So yeah, I just think Down have maybe more steel in their eyes ahead of this one.
Yeah, I think to get good perspective on this, by the way, Football Pod put out a bonus pod last night. Andy McEntee, the Antrim manager, was talking about Antrim against Meath and looking ahead to the Tailteann Cup final. I was having listened to it this morning, but I think for me, lads, Meath had one poor performance really, which was the first half against Offaly in the Leinster Championship. Even second half, they probably could have wrestled it back, but they left themselves with too much to do, and they've been far more solid since they've dropped into the Tailteann. I wondered what Meath's interest levels were going to be when they dropped in, but they've taken this competition very seriously so far. I wouldn't read a huge amount into the first group game because I think both teams knew they were going to qualify. So I'm going tight margins as well, and I'm going the same as Shane. I'm going down 1-3.
I went 4-6.
Same as me.
Same as Mick. 1-3. You're going 4-6. Sorry.
Meath weren't impressive in the league either, though. No. Like, and especially as it went on, they got worse and worse. So much so that there was a lot of anger in Meath at their performances in the league. So if you think about that, like, it's like that's where they're supposed to be battle hardened by playing Dublins and Derrys and so on, but they didn't. So in this year, it's like they've played Tailteann Cup teams all the way through. At least Down have had probably the other best Tailteann Cup team in Cavan, and they've played Armagh in the Championship, you know, and obviously, you know, didn't really perform that day, but Armagh are obviously very, very good side and very hard to beat. So, you know, I wouldn't take the 2 versus 3 sort of thing too seriously as well, you know, just another reason to go for Down.
Okay,
so we're obviously going to win that game now. We've all picked Down.
So we've gone down across the board. Mick and I have both gone 1-3, and it's 4-6 for Shane. Alright, Shane, you get first shout on Monaghan against Dublin, because I'm intrigued as to what you're going to do. You're sitting on such a comfortable lead, your heart can actually overwrite your head here if you want.
Okay, I've been thinking about this.
Did you know his head doesn't pick Monaghan?
Could be both. Yeah.
I feel like you've been disrespected this week.
I think
no chance.
Monaghan. Jim McConnelly did a preview the other day, and he said this. There's absolutely, like, this game is already over. This game is already over. Dublin have this won. A lot of the pundits have kind of said the same, and it's as if they've never seen this Monaghan team play. It's like when push comes to shove, they always show up. Now, right, if Dublin play to their capabilities, if they play like they did in the third and fourth quarter against Mayo, of course they'll win this game. I think they're 6-point handicap favourites with a lot of the bookies, but I'm going to make the argument for Monaghan. And the argument for Monaghan is, and you can say it's league form, you can say what you like, Dublin, every time they look for a challenge match against some county during the championship, they always call the Monaghan manager, because they're like, this will be a tight game, it'll be a physical game,
handy trip up the
M1 as well, and the last 4 times they've played in the league, albeit but Division 1 games with plenty on the line, Monaghan have won 3 and it's been 1 draw. Monaghan are the only team unbeaten against Dublin in the last 6 years. Kerry have lost to them once in the last 6 years. I know this is, I'm trying my best to come up with an argument. I think Conor McManus doesn't maybe start the game. I think they still use him the way that they have used him, and I do think Monaghan will keep things tight enough that at 40-45 minutes,
not to get off your train of thought, but does not make perfect sense for Conor McManus to play empty the tank and come off?
Maybe,
because what happens if Dublin go out and blitz them, and next thing you bring McManus on with the game lost? I
think Vinnie Corey trusts this group of players to be within a score or maybe ahead even by 40-45 minutes, and then McManus comes off the bench to rapturous Monaghan applause.
Yeah, and Conor McManus isn't the player that he was like 5-6 years ago, like there's a good chance that Conor McManus gets completely kind of sucked out of the game if he starts by Dublin, whereas if he comes on with tired legs in the back, that's where he's going to be a lot more dangerous. I don't think it's just a case of like you have all 30 minutes are created equal. You know what I mean? Like, you're better off with him later in the game. I
also think like Conor McCarthy has scored 212 from play in this year's championship from wing back. I think he's in the top 6 or 7 scorers in the championship from wing back. Carl O'Connell has been unbelievable for Monaghan as well. Like the two of Conor Boyle as well. That half back line for Monaghan has been supreme. It's one of the best half back lines in the country, and I'll argue anyone with that. The midfield, maybe Dublin will have the advantage for sure. But the Monaghan forward line, it's not just McManus. Jack McCarran has field days a lot of the time against Dublin. I remember league games he scored 2-5, 1-7. Monaghan don't mind playing the Dubs in Croker either. They're definitely a Croke Park team. They enjoy playing there. Vinnie Corey said that the last day after the Armagh game. And defensively, Monaghan are rock solid. There's maybe a lack of pace in the Dublin backline that Monaghan can exploit. Micheál Bannigan has had a brilliant year. He has pace. McCarthy and O'Connell are going to come forward at pace. Gary Mohan can cause a bit of trouble in the full forward line as well. How Dublin deal with Rory Beggan's kickouts is key, because they clearly pushed on the Mayo kickouts. Beggan has the advantage of being able to, if they want to push Beggan, he will launch it over the top into the Monaghan half forward and full forward line, and Monaghan can go from there. So they'll have options. I know I'm trying to say the impossible here, but don't rule out Monaghan. I think 7 times out of 10 Dublin win this match, but 3 times out of 10 Monaghan do, and I strongly believe there's a chance that Monaghan can pull out one of those 3 out of 10.
Come on, Shane,
Monaghan by 1-3.
Hey.
I was sure what you were going to do was have a nice long monologue about Monaghan.
I know.
Go, Dublin by 6.
No, it has to be done.
Monaghan by 3.
Come on, the Farney.
You've convinced me. That's absolutely brilliant. What a rallying call. What an absolutely brilliant rallying call.
There as well. It wasn't just emotion.
Dublin +7 for me.
Dublin +11.
After all that, I haven't convinced you of anything.
No. There's a lot of I've said all week actually, and I've been having internal arguments here, that I feel like some of the conversation about this game has been ridiculous. Like, you swear Monaghan were coming off a boat and turning up to Croke Park, as opposed to being this team who are thereabouts every single year and are playing well, and have guys like Carl O'Connell playing at his best at a time when we didn't think he would be anymore, and they have the most influential goalkeeper in the game, and like, they're going to have an extra man there because Cluxton's not meeting him in midfield.
Is Beggan more influential than Cluxton?
Right now in football, I would have to say so. Do you not think so? Cluxton hasn't been there in 3 years. Like, I mean, don't get me, like, I'm not gonna
I think
dismiss the influence of Stephen Cluxton by any means.
Obviously,
I don't mean in history, I mean in the game right now, I would say.
Colin Boyle was on BM show during the week, and I love Colin and love his analysis. He said though that if Monaghan were to win, he said to Joe, it would be one of the biggest shocks in championship history. And I can't, like, Monaghan have been a Division 1 team for 10 years. How can that be one of the biggest shocks in championship history? If a Division 3 or 4 team were coming up and beating Dublin in an All-Ireland semi-final, granted, it's a massive shock. If Monaghan beat the Dubs on Saturday, it'll be a shock to everyone outside of Monaghan. Nobody in Monaghan, the team especially, will be surprised that they've won. I guarantee you Vinnie Corey and his team expect to win on tomorrow, 100%. I know it. They actually expect to beat Dublin.
There's no point in an All-Ireland semi-final if you don't expect you to win.
This is it. So I don't agree that it would be a shock.
Because they've built themselves up for this all year. And don't forget, Dublin have lost the last 2 All-Ireland semi-finals. They're not unbeatable. They're not like this impenetrable force that they were in the past. So I actually, all joking aside, I am going to pick that Dublin pick, but I'll tell you why. It's like, I think there's more talent in the Dublin team. I think their bench is insane for Dublin. They Conor McManus outright, and we've seen that they've gone with, whether they do or not, they've gone with much the same as what they did last time. And if you're able to, if the game's tight and you're bringing on Jack McCaffrey and Kieran Kilkenny and Dean Rock, the percentages would tell me that I don't agree with you that an All-Ireland semi-final is played 10 times that Monaghan win 3 of them. And it's your opinion. I know league matches early in championship and so on. Absolutely. I just think that ultimately Dublin have too much talent and too much big game experience that I think the chances are, I think it's a close game, that they slightly stretch away with it in the end, but that Monaghan give a good account of themselves. But again, I'm not suggesting that this is a lock or anything like that. I would be between 4-6 and +7, but it just one of those things that it feels like it could end up being a 9-point game that didn't feel like it was as distant as that, so it not been said in a disrespectful way to Monaghan or not, who honestly, and it's not playing for the person beside me right now, I feel like there's been massive disrespect to them and what they've done over the last 15 years, and how relevant they've managed to stay. Honestly, it's like Leitrim have gone on a mad championship run and got to the semi-final and are rocking up against Dublin, because we're not in that kind of category at all.
How much of that, Mick, is down to neutrals willing Kerry against Dublin final? Because I feel like we'll get on to Derry in a second, but I feel like people in the second game have even gone.
Everyone wants it. Yeah, the neutrals want it.
I find it strange. I understand that we want them to collect, but like semi-finals are their own thing, and if you had a big win for Monaghan tomorrow, it would eclipse anything that could happen in a final. It'll be one of the greatest days in GAA history. You know what I mean? Because of the type of county it is, the type of support that they have, and the type of history. And not making what was it, one final in however many years. I think that, why are we always looking down the lens for the next thing? We've got a class weekend coming.
So you're going Dublin +7 then?
I feel like an idiot.
But it's like
as if I talked around everything but Dublin +7 and then gone for that. But I think you have to go with the numbers here. And as the person in joint last place in this 3-man tournament, also second place, I suppose. That's what I'm going for.
Okay, I'm going to meet you in the middle with these ones, and I'm going for Dublin between 4 and 6. Okay. Just very impressed by how they played the second half against Mayo. Can't look past that. If they're to find themselves into trouble, to be able to bring the calibre of multiple All-Stars off the bench could be huge in a game like this as well. I kind of get the feeling they're getting back to that level again. Maybe not where they were previously, but even a bit improved on last year. So I think Dublin by 4 to 6.
They lost by a point to Kerry in the semi-final last year. The idea that Dublin have completely collapsed, or are not where they were or whatever. Maybe they're not where they were, but they're still at the top level.
And even like the Mayo game, it's a ball being kept in play is the difference really between the teams that year as well. It's a kick of a ball in both occasions. So what I mean is they're not at the dominant stage that they were previously. But I think Dublin by 4 to 6. Okay, Derry against Kerry then. I did enjoy Jack O'Connor's comments during the week, Mick, which is basically like, look, Derry got away playing, they're going to go out and try and stop us. That's their prerogative.
9 games. Is he trying to get them to encourage them to play outside of their comfort zone for the sake of proving Jack O'Connor wrong?
I think with Derry,
managers would have done in the past, I presume.
I think with Derry moved the ball into their forward line, they're a very attractive team on the eye, but sometimes like in the Cork game, I just feel like there's a little bit more from them, or you're hoping for a little bit more from them.
Look, I'm as critical of like boring styles of play as anyone, I would say. I find when it gets to an All-Ireland semi-final, if the game is close, there's so much in the line that I think styles of play don't matter as much. I don't know if they don't matter at all. I think we could still be driven to sleep in the first half if it ends up being a 4-all, 50 men behind the ball at all times. But at the same time, I wouldn't be as concerned about it as if we were having this discussion earlier in the season. I don't want to go first in this one because I don't know. Will, I think you haven't gone first.
I haven't gone first yet. I fancy Kerry. I fancy Kerry because the way they swatted away Tyrone the last day. This Derry team, the only time that they really kind of let us down over the last while was the semi-final last year. They've been very impressive across the last 2 championships, so by no means do I want this to sound like it's some kind of insult towards Derry, because I've been very impressed by them generally, and I kind of got on board with Declan Bogue's point on PM last night too, where he said Shane McGuigan is probably the most important player to any county at the moment, with the importance that he has for this Derry team. I just wonder if Kerry can maybe stifle the supply to McGuigan. Is there going to be enough of a share of scores elsewhere to get past this Kerry team? Because Kerry have got that kind of consistency of scoring about them, and I worried, I think we all did the last day, Shane, about the midfield with Kerry as well. We wondered in the post David Moore era, up against an established Tyrone midfield who would run the show in a All-Ireland final in very recent memory as well. We were thinking maybe they can just get enough ball in the middle third, but Kerry were able to still manoeuvre the ball around the field and get behind Tyrone consistently the last time out. I think Kerry by 4 to 6 in this one, and I'm kind of hedging my bets a little bit by a bit of a bigger margin than I normally would. I think I'd go 1 to 3 if we were equal at the top at the moment. We need to try and take that margin point, so I'm going 4 to 6.
I agree with you. The midfield battle is going to be crucial. Like the Kerry midfield were questioned before that Tyrone game. I think the Tyrone midfield is the second best midfield in the country.
This Derry midfield's incredible.
I think it's the best midfield in the country. Derry. I mean, Brendan Rodgers and Conor Glass.
Tyrone weren't themselves.
No, they weren't. And there's no reason why the Kerry midfield can't have a similar day like they did the last day. David Clifford was reasonably quiet the last day, as was Shane McGuigan. And as has been said in the build-up, great forwards are rarely quiet for 2 weeks in a row. So I'd expect both McGuigan and Clifford to have brilliant games on Sunday. Oren Lynch coming out with the ball is going to be interesting, because Kerry are one of those teams that can catch you out very much so. If you lose possession quickly, Kerry can run up the field, and they have the pace in the forward line to really strike at your heart. Derry never panic, and Paddy Bradley made a bit of a rallying call on the show this morning, where he's basically saying Derry are very good front runners. They're going to attack that first 15-20 minutes, try and get a few points ahead, and they love being front runners. So if they get a 2 or 3 point advantage, they'll absolutely lap that up and tap over the scores, play their game the way they played against Cork. I wouldn't be concerned with the performance against Cork. They obviously missed the penalty at the end, and as Kieran Meena said after the match, it wasn't a day for flamboyant football. There was maybe a breeze there that people couldn't notice on TV, and Derry just got the job done, got to a semi-final. I think the reaction to last year's semi-final performance and defeat to Galway will still be in their heads. They'll probably have a point to prove in their minds. Having said all that, Kerry's performance, and I thought Tyrone might bring it closer to them or even beat them in that quarter-final. Tyrone just didn't show up. Kerry were brilliant. And if Clifford has a good day, if Shawnee O'Shea has a good day, and even if Chrissy McCaig, as I expect him to pick up Clifford, like even if Chrissy has a brilliant game on Clifford, like he's opening the game up for the rest of them, Gainey and O'Shea and Paddy Clifford. I think it's going to be a tighter game than people expect. Derry have been similarly to Monaghan, I think, disrespected in the build-up, and there's no reason why Derry can't win this game, but I just think Kerry are going to nick it by 1-3.
Okay. Mick?
Well, there's no point in picking the same things as Shane, but
that shouldn't be your reason.
So here's where I am. In 2011, when Donegal kind of burst out of nowhere under Jim McGuinness and had that year where they weren't quite there yet, but they were a bloody nuisance, and one Ulster, were a few minutes away from beating Dublin in the semi-final. I had a bet on them to win the 2012 All-Ireland a few days after that. A nice bet came true, obviously.
You remember that one?
I do, yeah. And I'm thinking along the lines. Now, Derry's story isn't the same, and it isn't the exact same, but there are similarities. They didn't perform in the semi-final last year, whereas I think Donegal did. They just weren't kind of at the evolutionary stage in 2011. But for me, all year now, I've thought that Derry could be a dark horse for the All-Ireland. I still think they've got a great chance to do it. I think that they actually will match up well to Kerry and I think they will stifle Kerry. And I was leaning all week towards picking them. And just what's coming into my head a little bit is there's a few little flashes of the Kerry performance against Tyrone. I thought Sean O'Shea looked more like Sean O'Shea than he's been all year, and that would worry me, because for me I was kind of almost thinking that Kerry haven't been at full pitch, and they could get there now, and it wouldn't be unusual for Kerry to kind of come in and it be irrelevant what they do up until All-Ireland quarter-final stage. The other thing is the thing that nobody's talking about, lads, and it's like it has to come up at some stage, and I know it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about, but Derry's manager has been changed, and he was more of a coach than a manager. And I'm not saying that what's replaced isn't a good enough replacement or anything like that, but in my thinking of we get better each year and we're on a journey here, that's kind of gone now. Like, those methods are out the door. It's in some ways a new journey for Derry. I'm sure a lot of the things are going to be continued on and so on, but I think I haven't heard that mentioned once in the analysis this week, and I can't believe that it isn't a factor. I can't believe that it doesn't matter that this renowned coach who is kind of going from job to job because of the type of work he does.
This Derry team is almost seen as the personification of Rory Gallagher for the last year and a half. That was always a narrative around this.
I can't see how that doesn't have effect on their football.
Having said that, though, since Meena took the reins, like they drew with Monaghan, beat Donegal and Clare and Cork. So the results haven't been.
But they haven't had that.
No, the performance that you're talking about.
They haven't had the performance, but they also haven't had that test. They haven't had that
big team.
They haven't had the Kerry. If they're coming in here after all them, you're thinking, right, it's going to be a step up anyway. What have they got? And that's why I'm saying we haven't seen them be truly tested yet. In that, like even the groups, even the Monaghan game or whatever, it's. These are
it's the first game of the group.
These are group stages. You know what I mean? And we're all kind of feeling everything out at that stage. It's not do or die. This is, and for that alone, and for the fact that Kerry, you tend to come good at this point, I'll probably go with them. I was going to go 1-3. I have to go, I suppose, 4-6, just to kind of, if Shane's going to win this, let him win it at a canter.
Fair enough. It could be a pivotal weekend for you, Shane.
Could be.
I don't mind finishing last place if there's a chance of first.
There you go.
Oh, if Monaghan win, the open top bus parade is, the quick picks is over. Right, game over, game set and match, lads.
Right, good luck to the Farney Army tomorrow, Shane. Enjoy it. They've been the Quick Picks.